A lot of the firms I speak to have a monster spreadsheet that powers a large proportion of their business. It usually starts off quite innocently and then grows and grows over time. And then usually it ends up being one person that knows how it works. And the risk question today is, what if they get hit by a bus? What if they leave the company? What if an intern enters in some wrong formulas and data and breaks the whole spreadsheet? So today we're going to go through 4 big risk red flags to look out for, and then at the end we'll go through a solution of how to mitigate those. If we haven't met before, my name is Joe. I'm a senior software engineer and work as a technical partner for B2B service firms, building things like internal software tools, SaaS products, and automations. So risk number 1 to look out for is the Frankenstein spreadsheet. So this is usually something that started with 4 columns, and maybe it's going to have a maximum of 100 rows and does some basic calculations. But over the months and years, it's turned into a 60-column, multi-sheet, color-coded, formula everywhere sort of nightmare. You don't want to go anywhere near it. Barely anyone in the team wants to touch it. Updating the spreadsheet is a daily, weekly, monthly headache for everyone, but it's a necessary evil because it powers quite an important part of the business. When a new person joins the business as well and you start to show them the spreadsheet, you realize it's going to take weeks of training to get them up to speed on how it works. So this is a problem, and I think it's quite an obvious problem really, but with something this complex and this critical, errors are going to happen. And the more the spreadsheet goes, the more rows that get added and the more reliance you have on it, the greater the risk over time for big Excel spreadsheet problem. Now, this isn't to say that any large sort of spreadsheet is bad. That's not the case. But if it has turned into a real complicated beast and monster, that might mean it's something to address. So a big risk is the lack of audit logs and permission systems. So in modern software applications, you'll have permission, so not everyone can do everything. Only certain people have access to certain parts of the data and can update, delete, and change certain things. Also, when they do that, there will be an audit trail of who updated what and when. Now, with spreadsheets, although yes, some of those features are available in modern tools, their visibility and management is nowhere near as straightforward. And to be honest, a lot of companies don't have any awareness of that whatsoever. It's just everyone's got access to the big sheet, don't mess it up. So when an employee deletes an invoice number or a formula or a row by mistake, it can be quite hard to track down what's gone wrong when. And with big complicated spreadsheets, it's not always the new guy or girl that does it. It can be someone that's known about it or been using the spreadsheet for a long time. It can just be simple human error. And that human error brings me on to the next risk, and that is silent data corruption. So people can delete things, important things, VLOOKUPs, formulas that will affect data in other parts of the spreadsheet. And this can all happen without anyone noticing for quite some time. Obviously, with smaller spreadsheets, it can be more obvious when something's gone wrong. But when you have these big, colossal, multi-sheet, hundreds of column spreadsheets, and there's one cell that's gone out of sync and something's gone wrong with, it can take a very long time to spot, and the effects downstream can be pretty huge. Unfortunately as well, when this happens, it kind of turns into this quite horrible blame game sometimes. But usually it's something that someone's done by complete accident, wasn't even aware that they did it. It could be leaning on the keyboard at the wrong time, or accidentally clicking and dragging a cell to the wrong position. Really, really easy to do. And finally, a risk that we touched on earlier is the key person dependency. So this is when there's one person, it might be you, it might be someone in the team, who has the core information or the most information and knowledge about how the spreadsheet works or should work, its quirks, its data, its formulas, all of that stuff. They might have been someone that built the spreadsheet or that's been maintaining and managing it for the last few months or last years. Now, the big problem with that is if this person goes on holiday, things can grind to a halt. The other team members will probably be stressing and pulling their hair out that so-and-so's gone on holiday and God, someone's got to manage this spreadsheet. But it can be even worse when they leave the business, especially if it's them leaving quite quickly for whatever reason. It can really leave people in the lurch in quite a difficult place. So the way to mitigate some of these risks varies. It depends Depends a little bit on your situation and your budget and what your long-term goals are for not just the spreadsheet, but the area of business that powers. So the simple thing to do, especially if you've got someone that's a key person that knows the most about the spreadsheet, is get them to write training documentation and do some in-person training with other team members so that that information is shared across the team. It can't just be siloed in that one person. That's got to change. The next thing to consider is hiring an Excel specialist. That's definitely not me, but Excel and spreadsheet specialists do exist. You could get them in for a few days consultancy to add in things like validation, permission, certain views, and just really kind of harden up what you've got in place at the moment and prevent those mistakes from being made. Usually when that happens as well, they'll be able to give some great training to your team and make the spreadsheet and what you're trying to achieve with it a lot easier for everyone to use. A third option to look for is there a piece of software out there which will do maybe not everything you've set the spreadsheet up to do, but is there something out there that could do maybe 80 or 90% of it and reduce the amount of work needed in the spreadsheet? Sometimes some of these tools aren't quite right because they might only do kind of 40 or 50% of what you need them to do, and it's not going to quite be worth it, but it's worth investigating, or get ChatGPT to do a deep web search about your requirements and see if it can come back with some niche products that could be suitable. Another option is if there's not a product out there that's quite right for you, you could look to commission the build of your own system. Now, this could be a completely custom software application, something that runs in the web and people can access in their browser. Now, when you do that, there's a lot of benefits. We can add in permissions, audit trails. We can add in usually a stack of automation and reporting that you probably won't get out of spreadsheets unless you've got some real spreadsheet specialism there. The big downside is the cost. It's got to be painful enough of a problem so that with the expense, you're going to get a decent return on that investment. But for some cases, it can be a fantastic option. A middle ground to look at would be something like Airtable. So Airtable, Google it, check it out. I would describe it as spreadsheets on steroids. So it is definitely a level up from Excel and Google Sheets. It is a kind of spreadsheet database system. Definitely level up. Definitely needs someone a bit technical, at least, to champion and lead that. And for the advanced features, we'll need someone quite technical to implement it. But that's more of a middle ground between staying on spreadsheets and building out your own complete custom tool. Airtable lets you do a lot of automation and organization that you just can't do in Excel and Google Sheets, but it'll come at quite a lower cost point compared to custom software. So yeah, check out Airtable. If you found this video useful and insightful, please do consider subscribing. I post a new video every week about similar topics. My business offering is more on the custom software development for internal systems, SaaS products, and automations. But if that's something you're interested in, check out my website, book a call. We can have a virtual coffee and see where it takes us.